Welcome back, everybody, to the WoW Americas Regionals. Great little interview there from Team Tempo Storm after their recent victory. Of course, I'm Josh Allen, a.k.a. Lore, joined once again by Elliot Venxel, a.k.a. Venruki. That was a pretty awesome series.
That was amazing. Jamili, Peekaboo, and Starship came to this tournament and really showed that they're serious about this. Jamili, I know a lot of the time in the past, has been criticized that he can't play at a tournament. But he came here, and I thought he played that series very well.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll take a quick look at the brackets and see where that places all of the teams in Group A at this point. Of course, Method going 2-0 against Hype in the first series from Group A, and then with that series of Tempo Storm going 2-1 against Follow Esports. Ridiculously close series. That means that Method and Tempo Storm will be facing off against each other in an upcoming match, and the winner of that will go to the semifinals tomorrow. Of course, that does mean that now Hype and Follow Esports are in the lower bracket, but they both still have an opportunity. Whichever team wins this next that next match between those two will still have the opportunity to move on. The team that loses, however, will be eliminated from the competition. And then looking at Group B, earlier we had Juveniles going 2-0 against Luminosity, looking very, very strong in that match. And now this next match that we are about to play will be Dream Deferred versus Santos Dexterity.
Yeah, these are some of the less-known teams in the tournament, but this is going to be a great matchup. We have Dream Deferred, actually. One of the main things that's really cool about their team is they have a Death Knight on it, one of the only Death Knights in the entire tournament. And I know Jeff is an exceptional player. I've seen him backstage playing a lot of Unholy, so they might have some surprises going into this next game up against Rin's team.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see. Let's go ahead and take a quick run through the rules once again to just make sure everybody's up to speed on how this is going to work out. Of course, as we've mentioned before, obviously this is 3v3 arena. If you've seen a match yet, you're probably able to recognize there's 3 players on either side of that. But just to say it, 3v3 arena, we do allow each team to have 4 players on their roster, which both of these next upcoming teams, I believe, have 4 players available to them, which will allow them to sub in people who can play different classes if they want to change up their compositions a little bit. The first map will always be played on Nagrand Arena. Super well-balanced map, very, very evenly focused, no major biases towards any particular composition, so it's a great map to start off on. And both teams will use a blind pick to determine what their compositions are going to be. They will declare it to the admins, but not to each other, so they don't necessarily know exactly what team they're going to be facing off against. After the first match, the loser will pick the map. They will be able to choose whichever map they feel they're going to be most comfortable on to stage their comeback. The winning team then will choose their composition based on that map choice, and then once again the losing team will have the opportunity to choose a composition that they feel is going to give them the best advantage against the team that the winning team has chosen. So it allows for a lot more back and forth in these matches, and that last series was so back and forth the entire time. I think it really does a great job of making sure that all of these series are so intense.
Yeah, and once again we have an incredible prize pool for this tournament, one of the biggest regional prize pools we have ever seen. $100,000 total, $50,000 for first, which is incredible. These players are going to be playing their hearts out. That is a tremendous amount of money for a lot of these guys, as well as the 3 spots to BlizzCon. So plenty to fight for here this weekend. We're going to see some very intense games, and there's a lot on the line.
Absolutely. I'm super looking forward to seeing this next match as well between Santos Dexterity and Dream Deferred. Both of these teams have been... They have several members who are a little bit under the radar. Of course, Santos Dexterity does have Rind on their team, who is very well known around the arena community, and several of his teammates are people that we've seen from time to time as well. But they're all hailing from Brazil, so kind of pulling that little bit of hometown pride here, coming into California to face off against the American team, Dream Deferred.
Yeah, and once again, you guys can follow us on social media at Warcraft on Facebook, at Warcraft on Twitter, at Warcraft on YouTube, and at Warcraft on Twitch.
Yep. And if you are using Twitter, you can use that hashtag WoW Esports to join in the conversation. I know I've been tweeting a whole bunch of WoW Esports stuff earlier. We've seen a few tweets popping up on the screen as well. It's really great to see all of the support rallying around this event from the community. It warms my little cinder kitten heart.
That's great. And once again, guys, you guys can use the promo code at blizzard.com, gear.blizzard.com, WowRTB15, and you can get 10% off all the Blizzard gear you could ever want.
Absolutely. So we will be getting into this match as soon as possible here. We do have the compositions in from both of these teams. Santos Dexterity will be playing Resto Druid, Enhanced Shaman, and Affliction Warlock. So that's I believe it's called LSD3 is the term that's been used for it nowadays, but I lose track of which number is which.
Yeah, there's been a lot of different variations of Lock Shaman Druid over the years. This one is, like you said, LSD3. I was talking to Rind a bit, and one of the interesting things about this matchup is I think this is the first time both teams aren't exactly sure what their opposition is going to run. So they're kind of going into this matchup blind. It looks like Rind, Murkmine, and Shape has decided LSD3 is their best bet all around. But looking at Dream Deferred, they're going to be playing that Resto Shaman, Feral Druid, Affliction Warlock.
Yeah, and especially coming off of that last series where we saw Follow Esports' FLS doing so well. They didn't win the series, obviously, but they were so close in each one of those. I'm really excited to see another FLS and see how they're going to be able to put up against Santos Dexterity's Lock Shaman Druid composition. Of course, this team, Dream Deferred, it was relatively famous. They won't be playing the Death Knight in this match, but from the tournament that they qualified in, they had a 27-second match. It lasted 27 seconds, and it was literally just Black Jeff and Zevs walked across the arena, pushed a few buttons, and just murdered the other healer. It was ridiculous. But we do have a player interview video that's going to break it down from these two teams and give us an insight into how they're feeling about this matchup.
Our first match is against Dream Deferred, and we're kind of confident against them because we have a lot of games played. So it's one of the matchups we wanted to get at first, so it's kind of good for us since we're facing them right away.
So I think we definitely have a comp advantage for one. They don't have a Resto Shaman on the team, so Lock versus Lock will be in a better spot having Shaman.
We have an advantage because they play two different comps. They play FLS and Shadow Cleave. They normally play only those two comps, and that's one of the reasons why we're kind of confident.
So Santos Dexterity, their team is composed of amazing players. Rind is probably one of the best Resto Druids. I feel like our biggest weakness is that I'm getting old.
So I think our match with Santos Dexterity it'll be a good match. It'll be close, but I definitely think we have an advantage, and the game will be drawn out, but can definitely win.
And we're back. Vincent Wong apparently worried that his age may be a disadvantage to his team here in this matchup. I don't know, man. He's been so good in so many games in the past.
Yeah, he's an amazing player, and it's nice to see both these teams exceptionally confident going into this. That usually is the story for the most part, so we'll have to see how this matchup goes. I know from talking to Rind while watching the other games, he is expecting to win. He thinks if they play well, there's no chance they can lose, and he's told me that he sees the light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel may in fact be a freight train, and we'll have to hope that that's not the case for them up against Dream Deferred. We have seen very freight train-like behavior from them in the past, so I'm super excited to get into this match, and we will be getting into it here very, very shortly, just waiting for both teams to be completely ready. Vincent apparently cannot wear a jacket while he's playing, and I don't blame him. Like, it's very important. You got to be super comfortable while you're sitting there at your chair. You got to make sure you feel every bit at home, smiling for the camera a little bit, just making sure that you know that you're going to be totally okay as you come in there. It can be very, very nerve-wracking in a tournament environment like this. You're used to sitting at home, you're kind of leaning back, wearing some shorts and sandals or something, just sitting back like, I'm just going to play some World of Warcraft, whatever, it's no problem. And then you get here and you've got cameras in your face, you've got lights, you've got computers that maybe you're not as familiar with. It can be super intense. So it's going to be really interesting to see how these players can cope with the tournament environment.
Yeah, usually what happens is right before the games, the nerves are super, super high. But once it starts, you're just in the zone, paying attention. I mean, this is what they do. This is what these players do. They play WoW all the time. So it's going to be nothing new for them. Once they're actually in the game, paying attention to cooldowns and what they need to be focused on, all the other stuff just goes black.
Absolutely. So, like I said, we will be getting into this match here in just a moment. Looking at these compositions, how do you feel that these are going to match up against each other? Because I feel like Santos Dexterity, they're going to want to play fairly defensive with the Enhancement Shaman and the Affliction Warlock, maybe kind of hugging the pillars a little bit and just poking out from time to time to put in a little bit of damage. And of course, the Pharaoh Lock Shaman composition, they want to play super aggressive. They want to be in there constantly, making sure those bleeds and dots are both up. How do you feel like they're going to be able to match up against each other?
On a map like Nagrand, I think this is going to be a very even matchup. We're going to see, like you said, Vincent Wong, Zevs, and Foxy pushing in and trying to really set the pace of the game, keeping a lot of pressure on Rind, making sure he's scared at all times that he can get swapped to with that Incarnation or a stun swap. Just really dangerous for him. A lot of pressure is going to be coming out from this FLS, but Turbo obviously has a big answer to that. They also have damage. They have a lot of defensive cooldowns to deal with this. But we are going to get into the first game of this series, Santos Dexterity against Dream Deferred on Nagrand Arena.
Yep, we will be getting in here. The gates will be opening relatively soon. Of course, on the left side of the screen, once we are in here, you'll see Santos Dexterity and Dream Deferred on the right side, as they are now just in the preparation room, getting ready to come out here. You can see in their faces right now, they're getting their game faces on. They're ready to go. They want to get into this match every bit as much as we do, and it is mere moments away as the timer has now started and will be active here very, very shortly.
Yeah, if you look, I mean, it's the same classes on both sides. We have a Shaman, a Warlock, and a Druid, like we were talking about early. Many different variations of this comp. And like I said, I don't think there's any distinct advantage for either team going into this matchup. The gates are about to open, though, in 10 seconds. Both these guys looking to win and move forward in their group. 3, 2, 1, and we're off. Immediately, both teams going to be laying down those gateways right away. And we'll have to see who decides to push the pace at the beginning.
Yeah, we see Sykesy already trying to move in here, but looking over here at Merc, he's actually already trying to put a whole bunch of damage into Sneaky Wong, and Sneaky Wong actually stuck there for a second, so there's this little like fight going on between the two Shaman behind the pillar over here while everything else is going on elsewhere. It's kind of entertaining, actually. Over on the other side of the map, Sykesy is just still getting as much damage as he can, but he does get stuck into that Shadow Fury, which is going to slow him down for just a second.
I think this is going to be one of those matchups where both healers are going to have to do an exceptional job managing their mana and just trying to avoid as much damage as possible, shutting down the Warlocks from actually getting those dots out. Both Warlocks have their Dark Soul up right now, trying to get going onto Suchi. Shape is doing a lot of damage here onto him, but Sneaky Wong able to just dispel off those dots and clean him up.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how they're positioning themselves so far. We see Zevs and Shapist out here in the open with Sykesy as well, just trying their best to do as much damage. Does get the Shadow Fury down onto Sykesy there once again, but everyone else is just kind of hanging back. They're kind of sitting behind the pillars and just waiting for a good opportunity to move in and start doing some damage, and we may be seeing that opportunity right now as Sykesy's now moving in here and trying to do some damage to Merc, who is now caught into this Cyclone. Can Rind get over there in time to be able to heal him back up? It looks like he will be able to pop back out and get a couple of heals off, but now Shapist popping that Dark Soul, going to be looking to do as much damage as possible. Looking like maybe Sneaky Wong was the target for a second. They're just spreading their pressure so much at the moment. It's actually really hard to tell exactly what their strategy is.
Yeah, Rin getting cloned up there, that's often the strategy. Go onto the healer. If he ends up using anything, you just clone him up. Shape is taking a lot of damage. The Iron Bar coming out from Rind. A lot of pressure coming out from Psyche and Zevs there. Sneaky Wong actually getting in, throwing out those lava bursts onto Shape is keeping him low at the moment. Rind's having a hard time dealing with this pressure. That is this Sham Rage as well coming out from Merc Mines. The second Demon Soul is being popped by Zevs. They're trying to ride this pressure. Everyone's getting low. Rind still has Heart of the Wild and his Trinket and Iron Bark, but it might be hard for him to actually top off his team at this point while that Dark Soul's up.
Yep, they are doing a great job, actually, Dream Deferred, keeping that spread pressure going. Everybody on Santos Dexterity sitting about half health. Of course, Merc's with that, actually, Merc's now moving back out here, trying to continue doing some damage. He was playing defensively for a second. He just keeps sort of running back and forth. Actually drops a Capacitor Totem off to the side. Wonder if he's actually running Totemic Projection. No, he's just going to go ahead and let it pop over there. Maybe just trying to zone Rind out. I'm not sure what that... No, it's on his own team. I'm not sure exactly what his strategy was with that thing, but we'll have to see how they continue to work it out here. neither team is really looking like they're ready to fully commit into a whole lot of damage just yet. Even though Shapus is popping this Dark Soul, he's just kind of out here by himself. He gets stuck into that that Mighty Bash, which could put him in a little bit of trouble, but Rind is just hiding behind that pillar over there, no problem. He's going to be able to pop out here and toss out some heals once again as Mercs is continuing to put up as much pressure as he can.
Yeah, Rind knows that he can easily heal through these this damage right now. He actually went down for a drink not too long ago, making sure his mana is just as high as Sneaky Wong. It's going to be very important moving on to the later stages of the game. Sneaky Wong actually taking a little bit of damage right now, but he is behind the pillar. Does have those dots off him. He should be able to easily top himself off. Zev's actually using that Demon Soul. The Iron Bark coming in response to that right away from Rind onto Shapus as well as the Cenarian Ward. He's going to get topped off and be completely fine. Rind, once again, I think actually went down for another drink up to his 90% mana, making sure that as this game goes further and further, he's going to be winning this mana war. And meanwhile, Sneaky Wong catches a huge heal on himself, tops himself off, sitting at around 69% mana, and both teams just pressuring each other, just trying to get as much damage as possible.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they're both just looking for any opportunity to pull out some defensive cooldowns, at which point that's when they're going to start wanting to really, really move in and start fully committing into some damage. But I'm actually I'm kind of surprised by the way that Dream Deferred is playing at the moment. I would have expected them to be playing a lot more defensively. Sneaky Wong, though, caught into this Mighty Bash, could be in some trouble here. Does get down to about 40% health, now 30%, having to go ahead and looks like he popped the Spirit Walker's Grace. Does get put into a Hex for just a second. It's not enough to really slow him down, though. The Shadow Fury comes out, but he does manage to get the Earth Shield on himself, and he's actually going to go ahead and drop a Spirit Link there just to make sure he's totally safe, and they're going to swap it over onto Zebs, who may be in a little bit of trouble himself. He does have Blood Horror left, but I guess he does have the Dark Regen available as well, so he should be totally fine. But he is going to go ahead and Gateway out of there anyway, and actually come over here after Shapus and maybe try to put some damage up. That may have been a bad move. He's now very far separated from his healer, and he's going to have to pull back out of there once again and try to get over to Sneaky Wong to be able to heal him back up.
And Saichi actually has his Incarnation King of the Jungle as well as his Berserk available and ready to go, and they're forcing a lot of cooldowns there. That is the Iron Bark coming out of Rind onto Shapus, so they might be able to capitalize on this moment with no Iron Bark available. Rind still does have his Trinket as well as Heart of the Wild. NS is coming up soon, but we saw Rind push in a little bit earlier, getting that bash onto Sneaky Wong, and ever since he's done that, his team has had the pressure, and there's another bash. The Displacer Beast in. Sneaky Wong down to 30% HP. He does have Trinket Link available. The full clone going out onto Rind. He's just going to let Sneaky Wong, Zevs, and Saichi rot away under this tremendous LSD pressure at the moment. Rin's team is completely fine, though. They're just on the offensive completely at the moment. But once again, Saichi does have that Incarnation and Berserk available and ready to go at any time, and that is really what they're going to want to capitalize on and get momentum in their favor. But Zevs still getting low, down to 40% HP. Sneaky Wong not in any CC right now, still has Trinket Link available, so he can top him off at any moment. But at the moment, both healers do have their defensive cooldowns. It is looking a little bit scary for Dream Deferred compared to Santos Dexterity. Shapus, though, taking a lot of damage. Just as the Incarnation King of the Jungle, as well as the Demon Soul coming out. Rin's going to have to play catch-up here. He might want to use his Heart of the Wild. He thinks he can heal through it without Cenarian Ward coming out as well. Both teams just under so much pressure right now.
Yeah, it is actually a ridiculous pressure coming out of both. Dream Deferred has managed to stabilize quite a bit from where they were just a moment ago, getting all their members back up to close to full health at the very least. Rind now maybe in a little bit of trouble, actually having to go ahead and pop that Bark Skin. He's trying to get away from Sykes, and it looks like he will be able to do that, no problem. But they're just going to turn it back around onto Mercs. He's getting super low, down to 30% health. Does not have a Shamanistic Rage available, so he's going to have to go ahead and go into dog form, get out of there as soon as possible. They're turning it back around onto Rind, though. I'm not even sure how Rind is taking damage. There's no one anywhere near him, but he's just taking so much now onto Shapus. Santos Dexterity in a lot of trouble here. The Shadow Fury comes out. Are they going to be able to keep the CC rolling on Rind, or are they going to be able to turn it back around? Looks like Rind has gotten a few important heals out. He does get caught into that bash, but now Shapus is back up to 65% health, getting a couple of nice heals from Mercs, and they should be able to stabilize and be totally okay once again with this Iron Bark coming out.
Yeah, Iron Bark and Heart of the Wild pop from Rind. Shapus is going to be completely fine. Merc's Mind's doing an excellent job there, throwing out those enhancement Shaman heals onto Shapus. And once again, both teams just rotting down these healers. This is very stressful for him, or for them both. Dampening at 15% right now. These heals are going to get lower and lower as the game goes on, making it way harder for them to keep up with this insane amount of damage. Sneaky Wong and Rind both around 60% mana at the moment. Mercmine's getting offensively cloned there by Saichi. Very well done by him on that Shamanistic Rage. So kind of denying that defensive cooldown.
Yeah, it was very, very nicely done there. It was able eventually to get topped off as Rind was able to move out and get a couple of heals off, but now as a result of that, Rind had to kind of expose himself a little bit and was caught into a stun there for just a second. Fortunately, he was able to get a Cyclone off onto Psyche, which is going to give them the opportunity to turn this back around a little bit and just deny a lot of the pressure that's been coming out non-stop from Dream Deferred. And we're now getting 18% into dampening, which means that it's going to be so much harder for these the Resto Druid to keep his team alive. We're now getting into Sneaky Wong's territory. We'll have to see if Dream Deferred is going to be able to capitalize on this, or if Santos Dexterity can turn something around here in a hurry. And it looks like they might be trying to do that onto Sneaky Wong right now. He was caught into that Shadow Fury. He does have a Spirit Link available. He's going to go ahead and pop his Ascendance and start healing himself up. Does get caught into that Hex there for just a half of a second, and he's going to drop the Cloudburst Totem as well, so he should be fine for the moment. Zev's taking a little bit of damage, caught out in the open over here, but he does now have that Earth Shield active, and he should be able to keep him stable. But Santos Dexterity is giving them a run for their money right now.
Yeah, Rind actually doing an excellent job there, once again sitting down for that Shadow Meld drink, so he does have the mana advantage, has double the mana of Sneaky Wong right now. And one of the problems for Restoration Shaman going into dampening is if your whole team is low against a Rot-style team like this, Spirit Link really doesn't do too much. It's not going to provide you with a lot of healing. You're not going to be able to use it as like a safeguard. So if his whole team is low moving into dampening, that defensive cooldowns is sort of negated. Shape is actually taking a lot of damage right now. He has his Demon Soul pop, the Iron Bark also coming out from Rind onto Shapus. He's trying to get the pressure rolling. Full dots on the entire team of Dream Deferred right now. Sneaky Wong is going to have to play catch up. Zev's using his Demon Soul, trying to turn it around, trying to turn the pressure around. Rind getting caught into that full maim. He does have Trinket if he needs it. Sneaky Wong, though, down to 30%, catching some heals on himself, trying to be efficient with those healing waves, trying to conserve his mana as much as possible. But Shapus goes down. Unbelievable damage coming out of Psyche with that King of the Jungle and Berserk. Sorry, I missed that. He used those offensive cooldowns and just took him down so fast.
Yeah, I don't really blame you for missing it. It was super quick. I was barely even able to get the camera over there in time before he actually fell down. That was a lot of damage coming out of Dream Deferred there at the last second, and that's just exactly what they needed in that situation to eventually be able to go ahead and claim that kill and put themselves up 1-0 versus Santos Dexterity. We have Bajira over at the analyst station with his breakdown on how that match went.
Yeah, that was a sort of slow and steady match that was punctuated by an extremely fast ending. So that's kind of how those two comps work, though. The LSD 3.0, they both have a Warlock, they both have a healer, but their DPS is an enhancement shaman, which does a little more purging, a little bit more utility, but slow and steady pressure, and I think that's why they decided to mostly go on the healer. And one of the interesting things about the other team, though, the FLS, is that they do have the steady pressure, they do have the AoE pressure, but that is compounded by some insane offensive pressure from that King of the Jungle Feral Burst. And I think that's what we're going to see right now, is having another clip here, and looks like at this point, everything looks pretty stable, you know? You're like, okay, this is continuing to be a game that's going to go into dampening. These teams are really feeling each other out, staying strong. But then all of a sudden, the King of the Jungle gets popped. And even though Shapus does have the Iron Bark, I want to see exactly quite how hard this guy got hit, because he dropped in an instant. So we see the full maim onto Rind, and then Sneaky Wong is dropping down to about half health. Then once again, Rind does get into a Cyclone out of that maim, and we're going to see some insane burst. And just like that, that poor Shapus just got chomped by that King of the Jungle. So that was a long game with a very fast ending. And I wonder what sort of adjustments these teams will make. But we're going to throw it back to the casters and find out for ourselves.
Thanks so much, Bajira. Expert analysis, as always. And that's he could not be more right in how that match actually went down. It was a match that felt super slow, and then suddenly someone dies. And that's why, even when these matches feel like they're going really slowly like that, that's the sort of thing that can happen at any point. So you're just sort of watching this and saying, okay, who's got which cooldowns available? Who can, in what situation are they going to be able to pull out of this? If all of a sudden a bunch of damage happens, are they just going to up and die? And it can be tough to predict that sort of thing, and that's exactly what happened there. It just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, exactly. It comes out of nowhere. That's what's different about playing at a LAN tournament. A lot of these players don't have add-ons that would be available to them online. Normally, you know exactly when Incarnation is coming up, and you can prepare for it. But in a setting like this, you don't know. It's like a wild card that sort of comes out of nowhere. You can have like a good guess of when it comes out, but for the most part, I mean, that's what's going to end the games, and that's what's scary about fighting a Feral Druid.
Yeah, definitely. So we will be moving on to Game 2 here very, very shortly as Dream Deferred has put themselves up 1-0 versus Santos Dexterity. Of course, that does mean it will be Santos's map pick, and it sounds like they're going to go with Tolvaron Arena.
Yeah, they're going to go with Tolvaron Arena, and I think for Santos Dexterity, we're actually going to get a comp swap. They're going to be playing that Turbo instead of the LSD3. So we'll have to see how that works out for them moving forward.
Yeah, I do think I like that swap, especially on Tolvaron Arena, because it gives them a lot more. The pillars on Tolvaron are just so big, gives you a lot more opportunity to get out of line of sight, heal yourself up real quick. You actually have a little bit of time to cast a spell before the other team can get around the pillar and interrupt you or cast a CC on you or anything like that. So I feel like I'm on board with Santos's choices here to go to Tolvaron, to swap to the Turbo Cleave, and we'll see how well that's going to work out against them. Of course, Dream Deferred is sticking with the same Feral Lock Shaman composition. I'm really curious if maybe if Santos ends up taking this match, if we'll end up seeing Black Chef come out on his Death Knight for a Game 3, should we make it to it. But Dream Deferred obviously feeling very comfortable with their FLS play in that last match.
Is this actually the first matchup we've had so far where teams have decided to bring in their fourth player and swap things up?
I believe it actually is, at least today. Yeah, it's the first time that we've seen this swap actually happening. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's one of the things about this regionals compared to the last is these teams actually do have 4 players on them, so they have a lot of different compositions for them available. These players play different classes at a very, very high level. So a lot of different comps, a lot of different options, and now we're seeing Santos Dexterity bust out that Turbo Cleave, and we'll have to see what they can do. I think it's going to be very scary for Rin, so the Tolvaron pick, I like it a lot. He's going to be able to get away from that incarnation, at least he's going to try.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Zads is their arms warrior, and they were actually talking earlier about how they picked him up specifically so that they would be able to play this composition. And Zads is a tournament veteran from, not necessarily from World of Warcraft, but I know he's played a lot of other games in the past as well as a high-end competitor. So just having that little bit of tournament experience, even if it's not for the same game, it can go a long way towards making you feel more comfortable in this environment. And comfort is exactly what you need as that Turbo Cleave. You want to make sure that you're not making snap decisions or feeling too overpressured or anything like that. You got to kind of keep a cool head the entire time, because your whole goal is just to outlast the other team and eventually kill them purely by virtue of them not being able to heal themselves anymore.
Yeah, you just have to survive. Make sure you're rotating your defensive cooldowns. I think communication is key for these players. They can't overlap their cooldowns, and if they do, they'll pay the price. So they're going to have to play a very, very consistent game. And like you said, sometimes that doesn't happen in a LAN situation. But I think for the most part, all the teams we've seen this weekend have played exceptionally well. They're living up to the hype, and they're playing almost as well as they do on live, if not just as well.
Yeah, definitely. So while we wait for Santos to get themselves completely set up, make sure everything is working absolutely flawlessly over there, we do have a special guest interview over with Bajira at the analyst station.
Welcome back. I am joined by none other than Sony Digital himself, warrior extraordinaire, but also an enhancement shaman as of recent. So you've been seeing a little bit of enhancement shaman gameplay today, especially going up against FLS.
Yeah.
We were talking a little bit before this about the strengths and weaknesses of enhancement shaman versus FLS. How are you seeing this? These two teams battle it out? Do you think this is going about as you would expect?
I think the FLS definitely has a little bit of a, winning edge on this matchup, just because they can get more incarns off deeper into dampening. With the Warlock nerfs happening, it's kind of hard for LSD3 to get pressured that much deeper into dampening, because Ascendance isn't that strong of a offensive cooldown as Incarn. But yeah, I think FLS proved that they were the superior comp, and it makes sense because they just simply are.
Yeah, the slow and steady pressure, even if it's going on the healer, is not quite gonna measure up to that King of the Jungle incarnation. So there's discussion of swapping over to Turbo Cleave instead of the LSD 3.0. Do you think that's going to be a decision that would be advantageous against FLS? You think they'll bringing in the Warrior would be a good call?
Yeah, I was talking a little bit with Subatiz before coming into here. We think that Turbo could probably be a little bit stronger against that as well. Just more pressure offensively with the Warrior. I think it'd bring a little bit more to the table than FLS, than LSD3, so we'll see how it goes from there, I guess.
It seems like the strategy might change too. Instead of relying on that enhancement shaman, just sort of mercifically train the healer. It sounds like they might be able to shut down the Warlock a little bit better with two melee, training them down. So one of the interesting things is, even though you don't play a Warlock, do you think that the nerfs to Warlock damage have sort of changed their play style? And if it should. Are these players actually responding to that? Maybe casting more crowd control effects rather than just relying on damaging every target in the arena.
I think CC does have its place, but in the end, the nerfs do affect deeper into dampening. It's just it's simply a numbers game at that point, and the Warlocks they're going to be creating less pressure in the game. So regardless of CC, it's going to be a little bit harder for Warlocks to put out that consistent pressure with a little bit of a damage nerf. So.
All right, well, we'll see how these games go. Thanks, Sony Digital, for joining us. We're going to throw it straight to the game now, and let's do this.
Thank you so much, Bajir and Sony Digital. The gates are about to open for round 2 of Santos Dexterity against Dream Deferred. Right away, Zads and Merkmine pushing in, trying to get that pressure. Psyche actually stopping Zads on mid-map, trying to deny any initial pressure coming up from him, but he's taking a lot of damage at the moment. Scenario Ward already being popped by Rind onto him. The Blade Storm, though, coming out onto Sneaky Wong. Looks like they're just going for a healer train. He gets feared up on his Aura Mastery there, down to 30% HP. This could be the Spirit Link. He gets one heal off with his Aura Mastery, thankfully. Recklessness is still up for Zads. Psyche in a lot of trouble, too, now, down to 40% HP. Popping that Survival Instinct at the moment, and both teams coming out of the gates very strong.
Yeah, they are not messing around this time. There's so much damage coming out now. Zev's Dark Soul is just now wearing off. Of course, there was a stun onto Sneaky Wong there for just a second. Looks like they maybe are trying to continue to put the pressure onto Sneaky Wong right now. He's having to run around in Ghost Wolf, just trying to stay out of line of sight and keep himself safe as long as possible. And so Dream Deferred actually now turning it around onto Rind a little bit. Going to push Rind back behind this pillar as well. Both healers having to play super defensively in this match so far.
Yeah, Rind needs to make sure that he saves his Barksian or his Trinket for that Incarnation. Psyche still has that available to him. Zev's down to 60% HP right now. And this Turbo is coming out very offensively. Sneaky down to 30% HP. I believe that was the first Spirit Link coming out from him, but Incarnation being popped by Psyche right now, as well as that Dark Soul. Rind having to use his Barksian. Is it going to be enough? He uses Trinket as well, and Ironbark, and Heart of the Wild. Dream Deferred just forcing every single defensive cooldown from Rind there, and he's still under pressure. Zad's down to 10% HP. This should good to be the game, and he's going to die. He did have his die by the sword up. Rallying Cry wasn't available, but just that damage coming out of nowhere, and Dream Deferred showing that they came here to play, taking this series 2-0 over Santos Dexterity.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous match and over so quick as well. And that's, again, kind of what Dream Deferred made themselves known for in the qualifiers, is these extremely fast matches. It kind of looked to me like Rind just was not prepared for that swap to happen. But let's go ahead and take it over to Bajira at the analyst station and get his breakdown.
Now, that was a very quick game, but that was an excellent example of what King of the Jungle Incarnation can do. Once you start swapping to the enemy team's healer, you create so much spread pressure, and it can be incredibly hard to recover. Let's have a look at this replay and see just how that game went. So, we noticed right from the beginning, the teams are feeling each other out. All the health bars across the map are looking a little bit low, and we had an insane swap onto Sneaky Wong. However, they're able to stabilize after that, and Santos Dexterity is left still reeling from that initial clash, and Rind is able to escape using that Iron Bark to get out of there, but unfortunately for Zads, he was left alone, and they swapped that damage straight over to him and dropped him where he stood. So that's going to be a quick 2-0 sweep, and hopefully we get to hear from the teams here pretty soon, but we are going to throw it back to the casters for some additional thoughts on how that game went down.
Thank you so much, Bajir. And like you were saying, Incarnation, an incredibly scary cooldown, kind of a wild card in this LAN event when people aren't really expecting it. And they were able to force every cooldown out of Rind and take down Zads in an instant right after.
Yeah, exactly. And Zaz was already, he was sitting at around, I think it was around 60 or 70% health, so he was already kind of low. And Rin had to have that moment, like what was going through his head at that moment was, oh God, oh God, oh God, I need to get away and not die. He used a whole bunch of cooldowns on himself, and he successfully got away and didn't die, but he just was not prepared for the super fast swap back over onto Zads, and they just took him out in such a hurry. So very, very well played from Team Dream Deferred. They just did so well in those matches. So I believe we are just about ready for a winner's interview over once again at the analyst station with Bajira. So we will hear what Dream Deferred has to say about how that match went down.
Guys, I am joined by Jeff, team captain, and you've got to be proud of how your team played just then. So you guys decided to say, you know what, you guys got this. I'm going to step back and let the FLS handle. We know that you guys have been able to play FLS to a very, very successful degree from our last Cups. How are you feeling seeing your team really take it to the enemies?
You know, I kind of had faith in them because Sneaky Wong, he really pulled through, got his links off. Wasn't too scared because we've had a lot of practice against LSD3 as FLS. And yeah, I mean, I was pretty confident we were going to win. It was still a little scary. I was sweating a bit, but they did a good job.
Yeah, you guys are definitely tournament veterans, being able to show that you have what it takes to compete. You made it all the way here. And now, after that match, you guys will be moving forward. So I asked the same question to Chanimals, and he kind of kept it a little close to the chest. I wouldn't be mad at you if you did too. But, you know, you sat this last game. Moving forward, when are you going to make your tournament appearance as the Death Knight god, Jeff, that you are?
I mean, well, it's hard to say. I think Death Knights aren't as good as they could be right now, but definitely versus some of the more CC heavy comps, we might need to pull them out because, you know, DKs don't really die, so there is that.
Awesome. Now, I am asking you some pretty tough questions that I don't want to give away too much of your strategy, but in the practice, we've been seeing you play some Unholy. Is there something to that, or was that potentially a sort of keeping it close to your chest maneuver, not showing them the frost power?
Well, okay, so I haven't really played too much Unholy in the past, like, this whole season.
Right.
Because, you know, I haven't been able to gear up as Unholy yet. But I definitely see it as pretty good. I've been trying the practice games, you know, having the extra pets done, the pet kick, it's really useful, stopping more CC. So, like I said, versus CC heavy comps, maybe we'll be pulling out Unholy, stop those extra casts, live a little longer, and then we'll win in dampening.
Awesome. Makes sense to me. I know for a long time Unholy was a very high skill cap class. If you're able to use that pet to its maximum extent, it can be extremely effective. But these guys got to be proud of how they performed so far. Looking forward to seeing you guys progress on into the tournament, you know, keeping that Death Knight pride alive. But for right now, we are going to throw it to a commercial. We'll be back very, very soon for some more arena matches. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
We didn't even really practice at all, and we're probably the least practiced team, but we know how the seeding works, so we got a good seed and we qualified.
I would say with confidence that I'm the best Death Knight in North America, but to each their own.
I'm not sure if I'm the best because there's other like really good Ferals out there, but I think I'm a good contender for one of the best.
The biggest difference between me and them, obviously, is I'm old. They're like 18. They're at their prime right now. You're asking an old man to go against such a young boy. It's like not even a fair competition.
I think our team, we have good synergy together. Our team's very vocal, especially our Warlock.
I'd have to say that it'll definitely be a big challenge. It's a rough battle.
Whoever we're facing in the BlizzCon match, we go pretty hard, so watch out.